Recorded Books and One Click Digital present Lucky Shot by B.J. Daniels. Narrated by Graham Winton. Chapter 1. Max Malone scratched his shaggy, sandy blonde hair and squinted at the sunrise that cast the awe-inspiring crazy mountains in a pale pink glow. He'd camped just outside the Hamilton ranch, sleeping in the back of his pickup and hoping it wouldn't rain. He needed a haircut, and he also had a couple days' growth of beard, all part of the job, he thought, as he surveyed the news vans parked outside the Hamilton ranch gate. There'd been more vans parked here 9 months ago when the senator's first wife had returned from the dead. Now only 2 vehicles remained, along with a few reporters who drove out some mornings after a hot shower, a latte, and a night in a warm bed. Like him, they lived in hope of getting something newsworthy on the days they heard the senator was back from Washington. Max had met the other reporters and photographers the first day he'd shown up here. They would have looked down their noses at him, even if he hadn't been driving an old pickup and sleeping in the back of it under the camper shell. He was a freelancing, investigative journalist, one of a dying breed. But he had a reputation that preceded him, so he hoped he made them all nervous as they worried about what he was up to. Anyone who had ever read his articles would know that this wasn't his kind of story, which meant he might know something they didn't. He smiled to himself. Let them wonder. If he was right, well, he wasn't going to let himself go down that trail of thought. Not yet. He didn't want to jinx it. The only one of the news bunch waiting at the ranch gate who'd given him more than a nod was an old-timer newspaper journalist named Harvey Duncan. It was Harvey he stood with this morning at the fence. Is it true there are no photographs of Sarah Hamilton except for her high school yearbook and her driver's license mugshot from years ago? Max asked about the senator's first wife, Sarah Johnson Hamilton. Rumor is the new wife disposed of all the photos of Sarah, including the wedding photos, Harvey said, and took a gulp of his coffee from a cup that said Big Timber Java on the side. Just the smell of the coffee was almost enough to send Max hightailing it into town. He could go without food for several days. But coffee? That was a whole other matter. Surely someone's seen her and gotten a recent shot, at least a candid one, he said, as if merely passing time. Harvey shook his head. No one knows where she is. She couldn't move back in here at the ranch after her unexpected return from the dead. Not and live with the senator and his current wife, and after the story came out about her memory loss, he pulled a face. No one believed anyone could forget 22 years of her life. I heard all 6 daughters have scattered to the wind as well, Max said. So it seems. Harvey took another drink. Abandoned the ranch as if it was a sinking ship. Hamilton Ranch was far from a sinking ship. Just as Senator Buckmaster Hamilton's bid for the president was a far cry from the disaster everyone had predicted when his dead wife had shown up. He was a front-runner in the polls, and the gracious way he'd handled his first wife's return had only garnered him more popularity. I've been struggling to get a bead on Sarah Hamilton. No one seems to know anything about her, Max said. With a maiden name like Johnson and a married name like Hamilton, it makes it hard to get much background, other than what is already known about her. Not that she was probably using either name in the past 22 years. That is, if she was trying to hide and really didn't lose her memory. Harvey chuckled. If he knew anything, he wasn't giving it up. Max had used all of his resources and had come up empty, but apparently so had everyone else. Not that anyone in the world would care about the woman if she hadn't been married to the future president of the United States, if you could believe the polls, and he didn't do anything to screw up before Election Day. Still, Max was fascinated by the woman, and more than a little curious about what she might be up to. Sarah Johnson had come from a 2-parent, affluent home with a squeaky clean past. She'd been the golden girl, high school cheerleader, valedictorian, and apparently glided through college without making a ripple, coming out with a Bachelor of Arts degree in literature. She'd married well, had 6 children, and then one winter night, for some unknown reason, she'd driven her car into the Yellowstone River. Her body was never found. Because there were no skid marks on the highway, it had looked like a suicide.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?